I think about that day, I think about what we did together, and that makes me really proud, even despite the losses that we had. And I've thought about it a lot over the years, that I think about the guys that we did lose, and I know that what they did helped bring me and a lot of other guys home.
Once I heard the OP was what was hit, the first thing I thought of was Ryan. I knew that if there was going to be one person left up there to hold that position, he would be one of the few in the world that could do it.
With the amount of RPGs, hand grenades, machine gun fire that we were receiving, it seemed like there was no lull in the firefight. It was frustrating for a little while because it felt like they always had fire superiority over us, and then we started turning the tide of that. But I could look back and see the amount of fire that the OP was taking. It was just a huge dust cloud and explosion after explosion after explosion, and you knew that nothing good was happening up there.
I think back on it, and I'm in awe of the things other guys did. At the time, it's hard to see, like, how are we going to come out of this, that everybody just focused on doing their jobs and did them without having to be told, did them to the best of their ability, that it just became very focused. Because I even remember looking at, like, Jason Bogar when he was going to go to put the tourniquet on me, and he's returning fire and he stops, he treats me. There was just this overwhelming sense of duty to each other that superseded, I guess, any sort of interest in self-preservation. Those guys fought to the death. I mean, 9 of them did.
48 Americans, along with their Afghan partners, were manning their small base deep in a valley when they were attacked by some 200 insurgents. And those insurgents seemed determined to overrun an even smaller post just outside the base, an elevated patch of boulders and sandbags defended by just 9 American soldiers. Soon, under the relentless fire, all 9 of these men were wounded or killed. Insurgents broke through the wire, and that little post was on the verge of falling, giving the enemy a perch from which to devastate the base below. Against that onslaught, one American held the line. Just 22 years old, nearly surrounded, bloodied but unbowed, the soldier we recognize today with our nation's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, Staff Sergeant Ryan M. Pitts.
Valor was everywhere that day. I've said that a bunch of times.
A lot has been said about the greatest generation, and I concur. World War II era vets really saved our worldly society from devastation. But we have a pretty doggone great generation as well. When you have somebody like Ryan that is as inclusive as he is absolutely adamant about this award is not about a platoon or a company, battalion, brigade, but about all those that supported the battle, the aviators, the medics, the communicators, the higher headquarters, and everybody that came behind us. It's connects more people to the battle and to the services.
Whenever I think of that day, I think about us, what we did. It's never me. It's never even just one guy. There's probably 50 stories of incredible things guys did. Probably the biggest disappointment to me is that I don't know all of it, and I didn't get to see more of it.
I think one of the biggest things about Wanat that Ryan has been recognized for is for what he did for us by staying at the OP. You always want to protect your brothers in combat. You love them very much. You always want to do that, but it's not an obligation. So he didn't have to stay there, but being the type of person that Ryan is, I couldn't see him doing anything else. It's what he was prepared to give his life to do, and all the other guys, all the 9 guys that we lost, felt the same exact way.
As one of his teammates said, had it not been for Ryan Pitts, that post almost certainly would have been overrun. As the insurgents moved in, Ryan picked up a grenade, pulled the pin, and held that live grenade for a moment, then another, then another, finally hurling it so they couldn't throw it back. And he did that again, and he did it again. Unable to stand, Ryan pulled himself up on his knees and manned a machine gun. 8 American soldiers had now fallen, and Ryan Pitts was the only living soldier at that post. One insurgent was now right on top of the post shooting down until another team of Americans showed up and drove him back. Even with reinforcements, the battle was not over. Another wave of rocket-propelled grenades slammed into the post. 9 Americans were now gone, and still the fighting raged. Ryan worked the radio, helping target the airstrikes that were hitting danger close, just yards away. And with those strikes, the tide of the battle began to turn. Eventually, the insurgents fell back. Ryan and his fellow soldiers had held their ground.
When I found out what Ryan did, it didn't surprise me because that's just how he was. He was fearless, an epitome of one of the best NCOs I've ever had the privilege to serve with.
He carried himself very well, and you always kind of knew that if Ryan was around that you were going to be okay, and that everything was going to work out for the best.
Most of us are really good at jobs. I was good at my job. But you meet these other guys that are, they're born to do what they're doing. You meet these guys that are amazing warriors. It's in their blood and their genes. That's what Ryan was. That he had the warrior spirit in him, and you don't find that everywhere. He was born for that. He was born, and it's horrible to say, he was born to be on top of that OP.
I looked around our company, our battalion, that there were incredible paratroopers everywhere. I could probably pick out tons of other guys in the unit that I think going through it that I know would have done the same thing. I mean, there were guys there that day that it was just being in that position at that time. It was just luck. And there were guys in every company, Able, Battle, Chosen, Destin, Fusion, HHC, that I looked up to that I thought were just amazing paratroopers. Guys that I also thought that I wasn't as good as they were. But I think what was special, I think this is always the case with any team, if you're around people that are better than you, then that just raises, your game. And I think that we did that collectively as a unit. I mean, there were guys doing incredible things all over the place.